Welcome to another installment of the Mastercam studio at ProtoTek. This exclusive video series features the exceptional functionality found only within Mastercam, the #1 most widely used cam software in the world. Here's the topic of today's video.
Today, we're going to take a look at 3D weld repair using the stock model operation in Mastercam 2022. Let's take a look at our file. Here I have a mold. There has been damage to it and it's already been welded. What I want to do in this video is I want to identify the damaged area and only complete toolpaths in that small affected area. I have this identified as this red circle here in my model. I recommend copying the solid model to another level so that I have my original intact model also to work with. I am going to make some changes to this. So I already have this completed here on my copy of solid view sheet down here. First, I'm going to use the model prep operation called split solid face. This allows me to isolate the affected region of the model. First, I select one of the faces, and then I select that wireframe that I have identifying that affected region. It is important to use the project using construction plane operation during this. Otherwise, this does occur relative to the normal of the solid face. I can see that it doesn't currently align. I choose project using construction plane, and now I can see it's aligned normal to the top plane. I can blue check to complete this split, or I'm going to use the Windows keyboard shortcut Enter. I continue along with my additional faces. Now I can green check that I'm done. Now that I have the affected area isolated in my model, I'm going to use a Mastercam stock model, and I'm going to name it Weld. I can choose the model option and select those faces off my part. And then I use this additional offset option to simulate the welded material on the part. I'm going to do an offset of 150 thousandths. This option is really neat, as in it allows me to see visually what the weld looks like, and it'll also help me isolate that I only put my cuts in that affected area. I'm going to start with roughing this. I'm going to use Mastercam's 3D OptiRough toolpath to rough the area. First, I'm going to use the white arrow to select my geometry. I'm going to use the Windows shortcut Control-A to select the entire model. Then I can end selection. I'm going to be leaving 10 thou material with this roughing op. Go to my tool page. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch end mill with my radial chip thin factor for my dynamic roughing. I'm using pretty standard roughing type numbers here for dynamic. 10% step over, 200% step down. I'm going to do a 10% step up, just a little over 10 thou step up there to put the detail in. I'm going to use some relatively small lead and lead out values, and then the neatest part about this is where the fun stuff happens, is I'm going to go to my stock page. Here I can turn on rest material, I can choose one other operation, and I'm going to choose that weld stock model. This trims the toolpath down so that I only get cuts in the affected area. I'm going to green check to complete this toolpath. Now that my roughing operation is completed, everything looks great at a quick glance. I'm only cutting the affected area. We'll take a little closer look at it when we run simulation once we complete finishing. So next I'm going to finish it. I'm going to use a 3D scallop operation to finish this. As before, I'm going to use the white arrow, Control-A to select all of my geometry. I'm going to end my selection. I'm going to cut this to size 0 stock to leave. For my toolpath control, there's a neat option inside of Scallop. Typically Scallop uses a collapse pattern where it'll just start with the outside shape and work its way in, but there's a curvature in this part that I would like to follow. I can do that by using the curves option. I hit the white arrow for curves. I'm going to just pick an edge right off the solid model. Right here, this edge, I'm going to continue it along a few more steps and green check, but I can drive my pattern off that shape. This is important to use with the trimmed offset option. I'm going to use a 3/16 ball end mill. I'll do a 1/15 step over with some small lead and lead out moves. Once again, the neat part about this will try to cut the entire model. As I go to my stock page, I turn on trim to stock and I select that weld stock model that I created. This will make it so it only finishes the affected region. Green check out to complete my toolpath. Let's take a quick look at this finish cut. I'll zoom in a little bit, and once again you can see how that follows that curvature in the part, and the scallop toolpath gives me a consistent finish across steep and shallow faces. Next up, I want to watch this run in simulation. Before I can run simulation, I have a little bit of prep work to do so that I can view this accurately. One of the neat options in stock model is that I can actually turn that into geometry. I have my stock model selected. I come up to my stock model dropdown and I convert this to a mesh. This is now a geometry that I can use for another stock model to make my simulation more accurate. Now that I have that created as a mesh, I can create another stock model operation. This one I'm going to name Model for Simulation. Once again, I can hit the white arrow to select geometry, and I'm going to use the Control-A Windows shortcut once again to select everything, including the mesh I just made. I'm going to end selection. This time I don't need the additional offset. There is not weld across this entire model. That mesh represents my weld. So I'll zero out my additional offset. Now I have a model that I can use for simulation. It's my finished part, except for it shows the affected weld area. To set this, I'm going to go into my simulator options in Mastercam. Instead of using my stock setup, I can choose a stock model to use for simulation. While I'm here, I can set a few additional things. I have some fixturing set up for this. And if I want to run machine simulation, I can go pick my machine. Now I'm going to select all my operations, and I can hit the verify button to watch this cut. I can choose to watch this cut in verify, or from here I am going to launch the simulation. To make this a little bit easier to see, I'm going to turn off my machine housing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then I can slow this down a little bit and hit the play button. So starting with my roughing operation. And now it's finishing. It looks great. Once again, as always, thanks for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed this use of Stock Model. Stock Model is a great tool that has all kinds of uses for Mastercam for making your life easier. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.